You know you're good at SEO when you can rank lorem ipsum gibberish content at the top of Google. I'm about to interview the man, the myth, the legend, Kyle Roof. Kyle hit worldwide SEO famedom when he got a website to the top of Google using completely junk content in an SEO contest. Soon after that, Google penalized that site, all of his test sites, and even changed their terms of service as a reaction. But I'll let him tell you that story later. Kyle is also the founder of High Voltage SEO, Page Optimizer Pro, as well as Internet Marketing Gold. Today we're going to get into his origin story. How did he end up here? After that, we'll get into what everyone came here for, the SEO nuggets. What are his best skills that pay the bills? And we'll finish things up answering the question, why did he pack up all his life to relocate to Chiang Mai, Thailand? What's so special about this place from Kyle's point of view? And why not, let's add some spice to this interview to make it more fun. Since Kyle's moved to Chiang Mai, I've gotten to know him pretty well. I'm going to randomly plant some lighthearted, personal questions in there to try to trip him up. Let's see what happens. Now, as always, if you like what we're doing here, remember to smash the like button. Not only does it help my channel out a ton, but it helps the YouTube algorithm know what you want to see more of. Let's get started. Kyle, buddy, thanks so much for coming on. Why don't we kick things off just talking about where you're from and what are you doing now in the world of SEO?
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm from Virginia and Arizona. I spent my formative years in both of those places in the U.S. I'm the lead SEO for High Voltage SEO. We're an international SEO agency. We have offices in Phoenix, Berlin, and Melbourne. I'm the inventor, co-creator of Page Optimizer Pro, which is an on-page SEO tool, and I'm the co-founder of Internet Marketing Gold. It's a place where we test Google's algorithm, and then we have courses, like my courses are there. I create courses. I speak at international conferences. I'm on cool YouTube shows like this one. That's about what I'm up to right now.
You got quite the resume. I'm going to try to make this interview a little bit more, I don't know, let's see how it goes. I'm going to try to make it a little bit more fun than maybe you're used to, getting into some personal questions and stuff. So let's take things back into the high school days. Word on the street is that you were quite the athlete in high school. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, even I know where this question is coming from, but even pre-high school, when I was a kid, I was a nationally ranked tennis player. At one point, I was number 2 in the state of Arizona, and I was 11 in the Southwest. And I was part of like a development academy for players. I didn't continue with it, but I did stay active. And in high school, I did letter in 3 sports. And I played golf in college, and I was the first player from my school to be named all-conference. That was my sophomore year.
That's insane, man. But what did you actually go to college for?
I started off as international business, and I took one semester of – I didn't even finish the semester. I took the first test, and the first test was right before the drop ad date. And I handed in my test, and I went right to the drop ad, and I dropped that. And I actually majored in psychology. Psychology 101 is the most interesting course you'll ever take, and they do that intentionally. It's actually their marketing plan. I don't think anybody goes to college to major in marketing, but they know freshmen have to take like a Psychology 101 type class, and they make it the coolest class of all time. And I think that's actually how they get people into the major, and they sucked me in.
Oh, that's what hooked you in. But you ended up going another route. You pursued law, as I understand. How did that go?
That's actually, so to be a lawyer or to get into law school, it doesn't require any particular major. And I think they talk about English and psychology or other humanities and social sciences are all, and business probably, are desired majors more so than like pre-law or something like that. Like, so getting into psychology was a fine intro into law school. But I went to law school after that at Penn State, and then I became an attorney, and I practiced in Virginia.
Did you enjoy it?
Not at all. So I was a trial attorney. I think it's probably maybe the sexiest of all attorney jobs. I was in court every day. I did divorce, custody, and support, and criminal defense, and I was absolutely miserable doing it. I did it for about 4 years.
Okay. It's not surprising that you gave up on it. I think I had about 4 or 5 friends from college that all got their law degrees. And I think all but one of them are still doing law. And I think we had a yoga teacher. One owns a clothing line. Like, they're doing anything but law.
Anything but, not even near it. Yeah. Wow, I see that.
Yeah. So what was the opposite of law for you? What did you do after that?
I think I did what most people do. And I moved to South Korea, and I taught English to kindergartners.
The old South Korean kindergarten English trick. Yeah. Oldest trick in the book. Well, what was that like emotionally? You probably had this life set up for you. You got your law degree. It's hard to do, and you have this path set out for you that you're going to get a nice salary. You're going to end up rich someday as long as you put in the hours. What was it like giving that up and going into a commodity type job? Teaching English, pretty much anyone can do it, in a completely foreign country. Like, what was that like emotionally for you?
Well, the initial justification was this is just going to be for a year. My plan was to do it for 1 year and then kind of figure out what kind of law I wanted to do. If I wanted to stay as a trial attorney, if I just needed just to kind of recharge the batteries, or maybe find a different path within law. So I didn't give it up like all at once. It was a process. I ended up staying in Korea for 5 years. So the 1 year turned in, and it kind of just extended out because it was easy to be there and it was a nice place to be. But one of the reasons I think I was miserable was the lack of travel. When I was in ninth grade, I was taking world geography, and I remember high school was not a fun time for me really. And while there, I was learning the rivers of Europe, and I remember thinking like, this is a waste of time. When am I ever going to see the Danube? I was like, this little river going through Hungary, and I was like, this isn't going to happen. When I got to college, though, I figured out that you could do semesters abroad, and I did a semester in Greece. And part of that was actually a trip for a week in Hungary. And I distinctly remember standing on the Margaret Bridge, which goes over the Danube, and it spans in between both sides of the city. And on the left, you can see Parliament. On the right, you can see the castle. And I had this like flashback moment to that moment, like right in ninth grade, when I was like, when am I ever going to see the Danube? And there I was standing on a bridge over the Danube. And that really kind of got me thinking about travel and having international experiences. In law school, you can't do a semester abroad, but I figured out you could do a summer abroad. And I did a summer actually in Budapest in Hungary, and it split time between there and Prague in the Czech Republic. And again, when I took that trip, I really felt at home with the idea of traveling and with being overseas and doing international things. So when I got into law, I realized I couldn't take any more trips. Like, you do have like kind of standardized vacation where you can get like 2 weeks, but as a trial attorney, cases come up all the time. So there's really no way to set like a 2 week vacation. And if you were to go to Asia, that's a day and a half of travel on either side of it. So like these types of things that I really kind of decided that this is what I wanted to do within law, I couldn't do them at all. So getting out of law and then seeing that I could do something more international. And I mean, immediately going to South Korea, which is obviously overseas, that made the whole transition a lot easier for me, that I didn't have to, it wasn't a justification. It was like, this path isn't going to get me where I want to go. I want to be overseas. I want to have an international business or do something internationally. And that just never was going to happen within law.
Sure. So law was going to lock you down. I suppose teaching English just kind of locks you down, but you have summer vacations and stuff like that. But then eventually you stumbled upon SEO. Was that because you wanted to make more money, or was it because you wanted more free time, ability to travel? Like, well, how did you get into SEO? How'd that happen?
While in Korea, we ended up opening a business. We had a Korean business partner, and we had to build a pretty complex website for that. And then I had a really strong dev team because of that complex website. And I thought, you know what, I could probably general contract websites. And so that's what I started to do. And then that was actually going pretty well. And then I heard about this new thing called SEO. And I was like, you know what, guys, we could actually do SEO for the clients that are really happy with our product anyway. And now we could get maybe $100 a month out of them, or 200 even. And that seemed like a good idea. So we got into SEO as an extension of the web design company.
Awesome. What was, here's a question from the community. What's one thing that you wish you knew back then about SEO that you know now? Like, what's one piece of advice you wish you knew when you started out?
I wish I knew that I'm worth more than I am, or that I thought that I was. It's easy.
More than $100
exactly. It's very easy to undervalue yourself and undervalue your services, especially if you think like you're concerned that people won't hire you because your prices are too high. So I think it's really easy to start undercutting what you're actually worth. And I think if I had known that earlier, it would have moved my success along much quicker.
Okay. All right. So you started up, you got your company in Korea. Let's speed things along. Eventually, at least I know, you got kicked out of India. What the hell happened there?
Yeah. So things are going great. And I brought my brother into the company because he does web design and development. And we were using freelancers primarily in India. And I was like, I got a bright idea. Let's go to India and open a company there. And then we could have people who worked exclusively for us. It would keep our costs down. We get more production and we could take on more. And so that's what we did. And we went to this small town in the foothills of the Himalayas, and we were all set up. My brother was at the company at the time in India. I was in the US. And the building we were at, the business was on the first floor, and then the second floor were apartments, and that's where my brother was living. So we're told we're going to get a shakedown from the police at some point. There's a knock on the door. It's the police. We'd like to see your business papers. My brother shows them because we did everything above board, and they say these are the wrong papers. And he's like, okay, how much do you want? And instead of asking for a bribe, they put him in handcuffs and throw him in jail. And he's talking to the chief of police, and the chief of police is like, these could be the right papers. I don't know. You have two choices. One, you can get out of town tomorrow, or two, you can sit in jail and wait for the magistrate to come, and the magistrate will sort this out. And my brother was like, well, when does the magistrate come? And the chief of police was like, I don't know. So my brother's like, I think I'm getting out of town tomorrow. So my brother grabs all that he can, gets out. We were friends with our neighbor. They had this exact same setup, business on the first floor, and then the top floor was apartments. And we find out from them that as soon as my brother left, the police came in and took all of our computers, all of our furniture, like all the stuff that we had done. And our landlord magically had a new tenant in 3 days later. We had, and keep in mind, this was a mixed use space. So we had a 6-month deposit, and we had just paid a month's rent. So basically our landlord got 7 months worth of cash and had a new tenant in, and the local police department got a new IT department. So,
all right. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That really pushed things forward in terms of SEO, because then we had nobody to do the SEO. And because I don't code, I took the SEO clients, and I really had to learn SEO that day so I could keep them and pay my own rent next month.
Okay, so it's a blessing in disguise.
Didn't feel like it at the moment, but it definitely paid off in the end.
That's awesome, man. Okay, so what was your breakthrough SEO moment? What do you think was the moment when people started to recognize you? Not just like we're getting more clients, but you're starting to get noticed in the community of SEOs. 2015
was the first conference that I ever spoke at, and the topic was on SEO testing. And I thought that, and this was a really high level conference with a lot of great SEOs, and it's a smaller conference. It's the kind of thing where it can be a little interactive. Like people can ask questions while you're speaking if appropriate. And I thought that this would just be kind of collaborative. So this is what I'm doing in testing. This is what I figured out. What are you guys doing? And I kind of thought that that's how it would go. But about 5 minutes into the talk, with the questions people are asking, I realized nobody's doing this at all. Mm. And that's when I realized, my SEO had been based on that, because when I started to learn SEO, I was like, you search for, is this a ranking factor? And you get 3 yeses, 3 nos, and 3 maybes. And I was like, well, that's not going to work at all. So what I started to do is I realized, I could put up my own test sites. And then I kind of figured out some ways that you can actually then test specific things. And that's what I thought that high-level SEOs were really doing. But when I found out that they weren't, then I realized, okay, this is something that I can really capitalize on, and I can build kind of I could build businesses around this kind of concept.
Nice.
But about a year later, one thing that then really stuck out to me was somebody quoted me back to me that you said this thing. And actually, several people at the same conference. I wasn't speaking at this conference. I was just there. I got recognized, which I thought was pretty weird. And then people were quoting something that I said, and I was like, that's pretty bizarre. Like that really felt like,
that's
okay,
real.
Then I felt like I'm really, really onto something.
Nice, man. And you certainly made a name for yourself around this whole testing approach with SEO, which I want to dig into a lot later. But let's get a sense of where you're at now. Like, what's the scale of SEO that you're doing these days? Maybe in terms of number of clients or customers or students. What does that look like?
Sure. I was thinking, I remember the first time I pitched somebody for $400 a month, and that was a level up. And I wasn't sure if they were going to take it or not. And they ended up saying yes. And that really did help my bottom line at the time. And now I'm not involved in the sales team at all, but I see pitch decks and they go out and, I see that we're giving them 3 options, and the middle option is like $8K a month. And that trips me out. Like I can't imagine ever getting there. I couldn't imagine getting there. To be like, our middle offer is $8K and they're a warm lead, and it's likely they're going to choose one of these options. That to me is unbelievable.
God bless this industry. So in terms of breakdown of earnings, what portion would you say is coming from your agency versus Page Optimizer Pro versus IMG? Like, what does your earnings breakdown look like?
Most is from the agency, although the agency and Pop are all pretty neck and neck-ish in terms of not revenue, but the profit margin, because the profit margin is significantly better on SaaS. A lot of the money, though, within Pop is still going back to Pop, so we could be making more, but it's still a lot of development. IMG has really nice ARR, if you know that term, annual run rate. But the profit margin isn't quite there yet, just because, again, we've had development and stuff like that. But that should be coming around pretty soon, too.
Nice. Okay, cool. Who is the best character on Ted Lasso?
The best character on Ted Lasso is Roy.
That's incorrect, but let's move on.
It's clearly Roy, because Roy has the most subtle character development of all the characters.
I see nothing in that man. Let's move on. Tell us about the lorem ipsum fiasco.
You call it a fiasco, but the scene in A New Hope when Obi-Wan tells Vader, "Strike me down and I will become more powerful than you can possibly imagine."
Who could forget?
I think that pretty much sums it up. The short version of this story is there was a competition in SEO Signals Lab to rank for the term rhinoplasty plano. Rhinoplasty is a nose job, and Plano is right outside of Dallas. You had 30 days, and it had to be a brand new domain, so you couldn't have a domain you've done anything to. And after that, you could pretty much do anything you want. The team and I from High Voltage, we entered, and we took fifth out of 27. 27 professionals jumped in. Only 9, I think, actually got anything to rank, which is pretty interesting when you think about people that are pretty confident in their SEO skills to join a public competition. We took fifth, but then 2 weeks later, our page, and nobody did well, by the way. The winning site was on like page 8. We were on page 9. About 2 weeks later, we hit page 1, number 7, and then about 2 weeks after that, we were number 1, and we were number 1 in the maps. And a couple weeks later, we actually wiped out the maps, and we were just the knowledge panel. Like, we were rhinoplasty plano, and people lost their minds about that because the site was written in lorem ipsum. And we figured out kind of like keyword length for things we wanted to do. We printed out lorem ipsum, which is random fake Latin text, if anybody doesn't know. And then we did the math, how many times we need our exact keyword in certain places, variations in certain places, and contextual terms. And then we copied and pasted those terms into the lorem ipsum. And people lost their minds, I think, because they've been told that all you need to do is write good content. And you do need good content for conversions. There's no doubt about that. But when it comes to rank is a completely different thing because Google can't read. Google is an algorithm. It's doing math. And so if you give the algorithm the math that it wants, you can rank very, very well.
Love it. Love it. Does this trick still work today?
Absolutely. So I got a lot of hate mail after showing that the first time. And then
from who?
From a lot of big SEOs and people just saying like how lucky I got, or it was such a small term and this or that. And one thing that nobody could explain to me though, okay, let's say it's a low competition term. That's fine. There are 27 professionals going after this term. Last time I checked, there were 10 spots on page 1, give or take. And that means 3 pages should have been filled with professionals, and not even counting the sites that have been there for years, because there are plastic surgeons in Plano. And yet we beat them all. Like nobody really, the people that were kind of bitter about it really never got past that point. But what I did the next year, so I was on a speaking circuit in the fall and into the winter of 2020. What I did was I was speaking at 5 different big events, and I ranked a page in lorem ipsum in each of those cities. So like, and all but like one of them are still up. I think only one came down. I think it was yours, the rhinoplasty Chiang Mai. That one might not be there, but Bali's still up. Garden Grove, which is in LA, which is right next to where Disneyland is up. Couple others are still there. I can't remember. Oh, Milan. Those are all still up and living and thriving and doing great.
It's funny that the Chiang Mai rhinoplasty one didn't stay up, because like that's probably actually the hardest competition one, because this is all the nose jobs in Asia. Like this is like a standard thing here. It's probably cutthroat.
Yeah.
Here's a question from the community. Have you ever thought about getting into the affiliate game? Do you have any plans to make waves there?
Right now, we have several clients that are very large affiliates, so we're kind of in the game vicariously through them. I picked up some domains or some small sites that I plan on doing something, but it's more of a time issue for me than anything, and I need to get organized. Is probably what I need to get. I need to get somebody in charge of it on my team and then run it that way, but just haven't been able to put the resources behind it. But I do see myself at some point having a portfolio of 30 to 50 sites that are generating revenue, and that'll happen down the road for sure.
Fair enough. We would like to welcome you to the dark side whenever you're ready to make that step.
I'll happily join.
Cool. All right. So enough of the backstory. Let's give people what they want to hear, which is basically SEO nuggets.
They didn't want to hear about my backstory. I thought that's why everyone's here.
Excuse me. I mean, everyone, you can sign off right now because we've done
just go
everything that actually matters. Yeah. Now let's get into some SEO, and I'm going to dig into one by one some of the main, at least from what I've heard you say to me, are your main SEO tactics. So let's start with compound SEO. Can you first break down what compound SEO is and how it works?
Yeah, so that's the term that we use for the technique in the agency. But the foundational concept is to figure out what a site's authority is. And authority, I don't define as like some third-party tool metric number. What it is it's what level of keyword Google will trust you without doing SEO. So the idea is that you launch a page and Google will instantly trust you. I think everybody's kind of had the experience where you have maybe a longer tail phrase and you don't do too much SEO to the page and you launch it and you're just instantly on page 2, page 3, and it starts drifting up. It's bottom of page 2, top of page 1, or bottom of page 1 before you haven't done anything to it and you just think you're an SEO god. You do something then to a keyword that's nearly identical in terms of everything you can see from outside metrics, and you launch and you don't crack the top 100. And it's like, what's the difference between those two terms? They look identical. And the difference likely is that one was in your tier and Google just trusted you with it and the other one wasn't. And so in order for you to win that other term or to move it up, you need boost. You need something that's going to carry you out of your authority level or your natural tier. And you can do that, but the idea is that you are then susceptible to the whims of Google because Google gave you that boost outside your tier. So if Google changes something and doesn't like that boost anymore, you didn't necessarily get penalized. You just get dropped down to the place that you're at. So what compound SEO is trying to do is the idea of is posting within your tier so that you're getting clicks and impressions without really any SEO. And that the idea is that as you get more and more clicks, you move up to the next tier and then can go after a different set of keywords, then go after a different set of keywords, and et cetera. And you grow so that you have this site that's built on an extremely strong foundation and is much less susceptible to any kind of traffic volatility or updates in Google.
Sure. So it's like you're staying in your lane. Also, I'm picturing like an analogy of like rock climbing. Like you want to be able to get to these high keywords, but in order to get there, you eventually got to get your handholds and your footholds on the low keywords first.
Oh, exactly. This also answers a lot of questions too. Like, is there a Google sandbox? Well, no, there isn't. It's just you started a site at 0. So what keywords will Google trust you at the very beginning? So you have to lay that foundation in order to start moving up. And the lower the competition type keyword within your tier that you go after, the quicker you can get results. You can be on page 1 in a month if you've chosen the right keywords.
Mm-hmm. So you want to draft your way up. You always want to write in your lane. I guess the first question that I would be having if I were a reviewer is there some kind of table where I can see what tier I'm in at any stage of the game, and so I can kind of figure out what keywords I should go for?
Yeah, the framework of this I'm borrowing greatly from Chris Carter from SERPWoo, and I've spoken to Chris about this, so he knows I'm talking about these sorts of things. But we were doing this in the agency. We had these concepts all laid out, and this is what we were doing. And then I saw Chris talk about this, and the framework he talked about really does a very nice job, especially as an intro to what this is. And then you can kind of build on it from there. But if you search for SEO without resources from Builder Society, he has an amazing article on there, and on the article is a chart. And I would say that chart is a great place to start. I think you'll want to modify it a bit as you get more comfortable with the concepts, but it's a great jumping off point to kind of figure out what your tier might be and how to move on. And the rough idea is it's based on the clicks or it could be the impressions that you're receiving from Google currently. So basically you look at a 3-month span, and you take your low clicks day and your high clicks day, and I would toss out any outliers, and then from there that gives you that range that basically Google is trusting you. And what you can do is you go after keywords that are that have the monthly search volume within that range. That's kind of that's the rough idea for what you're shooting for.
What are you using for search volume? Just whatever Ahrefs or SEMrush tells you?
No. You want to use Search Console. You want as accurate as you can get. Obviously, there's some lossiness within Search Console, but that's going to be the most accurate, I think. You could also, if you've got something directly on your site, some plugin, clicky that's monitored, you could do that as well. But I'm not sure I would do an outside tool unless they're getting some sort of data from my site.
Okay. All right. So the impression I get from this is it sounds like a good old slow and steady wins the race technique. Like you're always going to be writing a piece of content within your tier. It's got the highest chance to rank. But do you think there's any disadvantage on not shooting for the stars, like not shooting for the best hosting company and instead going for what's the best way to set up a router on a network or whatever, like little tiny long tail keywords? Because you know how random Google is. Every once in a while, you could hit a home run with a very beginner website. So you kind of lose that with this technique.
Well,
would you say so?
I think you should absolutely be going after those terms as well. I think the idea is that Compound lays the foundation, but you should have those pages on your site. You should have pages on your site even if you're never going to win them. Like best hosting, I promise you're never going to win that. But you should have that anyway, just for topical coverage and having a complete website. But on top of that, even those dream terms, you should definitely be going after those. And you should be doing the things that work. You've got techniques and concepts and these are effective. You should totally be doing that. And then you should continue to do the foundational work with something like Compound. The dirty secret is that let's say you are all links all the time, like that's all you're doing. You're just slamming a site with links. Then you should definitely be doing this, because sites that do this can take on more of the dark side. What happens is that that's where Compound itself, these concepts aren't going to give you those traffic boners, but when you add links into it, you get the traffic boners for sure. And also I think it amplifies the other outside things you might be doing as well. I think it increases the value.
Awesome. We'll talk more about on-site optimization later, but do you put in less effort on the super easy keywords and more effort on like the best hosting keywords? Or how do you decide how much work do you want to put in each type of page?
Right. So because it's keyword, it's research based, and maybe that turns off a lot of people, but the concept is that you really want to find something that you don't have to SEO. Those are the keywords that you're looking for, are keywords that you don't have to do any SEO for. So you're really just putting it in your title tag, in your H1, maybe one time in the body, but then you're just answering the question or you're giving the information. And then there's really no other SEO after that for these types of pages. For those target pages, though, those things that could bring in a lot more ROI, that are more difficult, I'm going all in on those in terms of I'm SEOing those. I'm thinking about link campaigns. I'm doing on-page. I'm doing pop and other on-page techniques for those. But for the Compound stuff, you're trying not to do anything.
Makes a lot of sense. Here's another question, not related to Compound SEO, but related to, well, you'll see. Why is Southern Comfort the best drink?
Very good question. It mixes with everything. So if you're like, I want this, I want that, you can do whatever you like. It's good on the rocks. It's good in a shot. And you can maintain it all day.
Okay. All right. All day. I just want to make sure. Okay, cool.
That might be the best question I've ever had on any interview.
Good. Well, there's more where that's coming from. My next question is related to siloing. Okay. You've told me that you feel like siloing is one of your main strong suits. Yep. I know it's nearly impossible to verbally talk and describe a particular silo setup, but maybe you can try, and I'll get the editor to like draw something as we're speaking about it, maybe illustrate it.
So when you think about, say, that target page, that main money ROI page, so I'll call that a target page. That's the page that when somebody searches for my money keyword, I want that to show up in Google. So I've done all my on-page to it, and maybe I've got some link building campaign, but at the same time, the next thing I want to do is I want to capitalize on my own authority. Like I want to capitalize on how valuable my own site is. And so I can do that by posting other pieces of content to support that target page. Now this is where Compound comes in. So for my supporting pages, I'm doing them within my tier. And that's how I integrate this into our on-page strategy. But then once you've got them built out, you want to interlink them in a certain way. So what I'm going to do is I've got my target page, and let's say I've got 5 compound pieces. I will interlink all the compound pieces together, and then I will link from each of them up to my target page. So they're all linking to the target page. They'll link to each other. I do them just kind of sequentially, A to B, B to A, and B to C, C to B, C to D, etc. That's how I link them. If possible, I also try to get one link from my target page into one of the silo pages, so you kind of complete the circuit and it goes around. That's not 1,000% necessary, but that's how I do it. I also try to do these things in groups of, say, 5 to 7, and that's more of a practical issue because it's usually easier to manage them in terms of how we're putting like a campaign together. And then also if you need to remove a piece or something needs to change, you can usually easily find like where it is within its little smaller groups. So let's say you had 20 pieces of content. That could be anywhere from 3 to 5 silos is how I'd probably do it. Separate silos, all linking up to the same target page.
Okay. Do you ever break the rules? It sounds like it's pretty structured, pods of 5 or 6, and you got this back and forth linking between the children and then up to the parent. Do you ever break that, and why would you break it?
Yeah, I do client work and primarily. So there's often some constraints with a site. We can't link from here to there for whatever stupid reason, and they're all stupid reasons, by the way. But it just, for whatever reason, we can't do it exact, and that's okay. You want to do it as best that you can. I would make a distinction, though. There's a distinction between like we have to do it this way for whatever reason and half-assing it. And usually when I see people that are like, oh, I tried to, or I linked like you told me to link, and then I look at it and it's just a mess. And I'm like, this isn't anything that I talked about. And then you hear all these excuses, and that's all they are just excuses. They aren't, we couldn't do it because corporate wouldn't let us. That's a whole other thing than just like, oh, I was too lazy. And now I'm making excuses for being lazy. You know what I mean? So if you can do it correctly, do it correctly.
Okay. All right. Is there ever such thing as too much interlinking? Like if you have a super important best hosting page and you have 50 pages on your website linking to it, that's obviously bigger than your pod of 5 or 6. Is that okay in your book, or is it too much?
I think only one time in my career I've ever seen something where it looked like they might have overbaked the interlinking. And it was a massive, 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 massive e-commerce site. But after that, I have a hard time believing that you'd have too many internal links. I guess it's possible. Like it's not impossible, but I think you really gotta, I think what would happen is you're building mass pages on your own site, right? I think that's how it would happen.
Sure.
Like you're doing some sort of mass page build inside your own site and using all those for links. I could see that getting off the rails.
You're getting into the thousands of internal links rather than
thousands upon thousands. Okay. Like you've got some, what is it, Shaker or, whatever mass page. Yeah, you boop, and then all of a sudden you've done it on your own site, and then it's like, no. Sure. But then the same thing is like, that's the same, you'd have the same problem externally.
Sure.
That like you could run into that exact same issue when you build that mass page site and all 5,000 pages linked to one page. That might be problematic. It's probably the same on your own site.
Mm-hmm. How do you handle internal anchor text?
I think the best way to handle this is to be descriptive. Tell people where they're going or why they should click. And within that, it should contain either the exact keyword you're going for or some very close variation, a partial match. And it's also going to contain contextual terms. And I think you're going to get the best of everything in that. I'm not a huge believer when it comes to links that Google can read around the link for context, but I'm confident that Google can read inside the link for context. So you can have longer hypertext links where it will include contextual terms. It will include variations, or it might include the exact keyword. And I think that is a solid way to do it. And you'll never run into any link ratio, anchor text ratio issues.
Got it. Cool. And overall, like what kind of results are your siloing technique combined with compound SEO giving you?
I mean, we're crushing it. It was in 2015 when I first kind of got some of these concepts of how to put this together. We picked up this client that did high-level market research. And it's the kind of thing like aviation market research. So their clients are like Boeing and stuff like that. And the search volume was ridiculously low, like 10 searches a month for these kind of things. And they were going up against massive companies. And they had, what I realized on their site, they had like 3 years of this amazing content. They'd spent tons of time producing really, really great content. And it was all on point, but there were no links in any of this. And I was like, well, let's go through this 3 years of content and then let's group them with their 10 different divisions that they had. And so that's what we did. We interlinked all those things and then we linked them up. And that was kind of like the basis of kind of my interlinking strategy. But we went from not relevant to page 1 for 9 out of 10 of their terms. And like when you looked at their site, their DA was 1, their TF was 0. Like, I mean, they had nothing going on. They had done actually no SEO. It took a little time to put all this together. It took about 2 months, I think, to do all that, to categorize it all, to link it. Because again, we're kind of like figuring out as we go, like, okay, we could do this and this and that. We hit all these page 1 results and they fired us because we didn't do anything. All we did was interlink within their site. And
yeah, I mean, they had all the assets right there. I mean, another client would have thousands of links and you don't need to build any more, right. But you're just taking advantage of what they're not taking advantage of.
Yeah, they really saw that we did absolutely nothing. And I was like, are you kidding me? This was magic. This was, we're now competing against all these massive firms in your industry. We got you to page 1 for all these key money terms. And yeah, you're right. We did nothing. We did absolutely nothing.
Client SEO, man. I tell you, come over to the affiliate side and then you're just chased down by Google. It's
well, you know what? For everyone listening on the affiliate side, if you add in compound as a strategy, I think those Google risks go way down.
Yeah, definitely. And covering topical maps, which is what compound SEO is all about, just being the complete mega authority on a piece of content.
Well, I think that's one of the biggest things right now in SEO, if people aren't doing it, is Google favors sites where even if somebody lands on the page, they might not get the answer there, but they know the answer is somewhere around it and somewhere nearby. Sure. And that's what I think being an authority means, is it's topical coverage. You've answered all the questions. And in order to answer all the questions, you need pages that answer those questions. So why not build out these pages that answer the questions? It satisfies a lot. It takes care of a lot of things where I think you're going to start ranking for those things. You're going to pick up featured snippets. Your authority is going to go up in terms of the clicks and impressions you're receiving. You're going to support your target pages because as those pages get stronger, now they're passing more juice up to your target pages. And at the same time, I think it's what Google's looking for, to reduce like all those things with, EAT issues and medic issues and stuff like that. Google will see that you're the authority and you're going to be less susceptible to all those problems.
Yeah, man. I think 2022 is going to be the year where people start to catch on to this technique. I think people started to take a hold of that with the interview with Corey and like you're talking about compound SEO. And I think it's going to become standard practice. Now it's going to be a race of who can produce content the fastest.
Yeah.
Which will make things more challenging for everybody. Cool. I want to jump into on-site optimization. I heard you're kind of into it, considering you have a software that does it. So what would you say are the key places to do on-site optimization on a given article?
I think first and foremost, people really overthink it. Like really, really overthink it. You need to get your keyword in the top 4 places. And that's in your title tag, in your H1, in paragraph tags, and in the URL. And that's 70% of SEO right there. Yeah, and you're done, One caveat, if somebody's listening to this, if you have an established page, don't change your URL. You will be giving Google a brand new page, so don't do that. But do it on pages going forward. Your title tag and your H1 should match. Again, don't overthink it. People really want to out-clever Google for some reason. In testing that I've done, I've known for a long time that Google prefers your title tag and your H1. It was actually part of my talk in 2015, now that I think about it. Google wants your title tag and your H1 to be the same. Well, you know what Google announced in October? Oh, we prefer that your title tag and your H1 were the same because then we won't change your titles within the SERPs. It was one of the things they announced, and we've known that for a while. But again, people, I don't know where they get their advice, but they just try to like out clever Google for some reason. Make it easy. Google isn't reading. It's trying to figure out what's going on this page, make it as easy as you can. So get your keyword in the top 4 places, get your title and your page title and your H1. Your H1 is the title that humans see. Only have one H1 on your page. You've really done a lot of SEO. From there, you can get mathy, and that's where something like Pop comes in. Where then you've done those things and you've hit where you think, okay, we've gone that far with that. Then you can start to get mathy with it and start to climb the ladder in terms of ranking by then figuring out how many times to put your keyword, its variations, its contextual terms in very specific places.
Cool.
I would also mention, though, have an SOP. I bet 98% of the people listening don't have an SOP. Yeah, you need an SOP.
And what do you mean by SOP, standard operating
The
procedure?
thing you're going to do every time. We're going to do these things every time. We're going to do them in this order and stick to it. But one other thing then that I would say is, like, even if you have an SOP, you need to make predictions. What will happen? So that, like, if I do this, I expect this outcome in about this amount of time. Because then what happens is you can decide, like, what, this isn't working at all. And then you need to change something up. Or you might find out that the niche you're in is more difficult than you realized, or easier than you realized, because this should happen in about 3 months, and it happens in 6. Well, and then you can start to make some business decisions on when we decide to move into this or that, because about how long things are going to take. And that also gives you an opportunity to adjust your SOP. Okay, we've done this 3 times in a row, and it just really hasn't worked. So now we need to find something else. And then you can grab that shiny object that you've been dying to do and plug it into the certain spot where you think things aren't working. Consistency, repeatable processes allow for repeatable results and a lot of success.
Great advice. And what would you say, when you combine all 3 of these strategies together, compound SEO, your siloing, and your on-site optimization, what would you say is your hit rate and the percent chance you write a piece of content, it's going to make it to page 1?
On the compound side, so for the things that we're doing as supporting pages on the site, my hit rate's about 80% on those.
That's great.
And it is, and it drives a lot of what we do. Keep in mind, though, that means like 1 out of 10, 1 out of 2 times I'm just flat wrong. But that's how it goes, because we're doing research as best we can, right? And
Sure.
It looks like this term should work because it follows our formula. But again, that's so repeatable that it is that successful. When it comes to on page, like, so let's say we launch a new page and we're doing on page, and then we're beginning the siloing process. I'm really expecting that to hit somewhere between 3 and 5, depending on how competitive it is. Higher if it's lower competition, but 3 to 5 is a pretty reasonable number for on page for real terms. And then from there, then you realize we need to do a little more on page. We need to really go aggressive with our silos, and then whatever link building campaign we're going to do.
Sure. What does your team structure look like, or at least in this writing process? Do you have your authors themselves write and optimize, or do you send that over to SEOs? Like, who does the actual on-site optimization
It
part?
centers around our content editor. So we have the SEO team, if you will. So we have people that we call them OPRs, or on-page recommendations. We have people that are trained to do those, and then they get sent, and they're working with the campaign managers, because the campaign managers know what the strategy is. It's okay, we need these 5 OPRs. So then the OPRs are done by those that are qualified to do that. That goes to the editor. The editor then sends it to the writers. The writers then write, and then the editor comes back through and is going to edit. At that point, they should be pretty close count-wise, SEO-wise, and the editor is going to edit for things like grammar and tone, but then also for some on-page SEO issues. And then those go back to the campaign managers for a final review before it gets published on the site.
Sure. Okay, cool. What's your thoughts on keyword density, fact or fiction?
Both. I think you can think of keyword density in terms of signal area, so or factor area. So like your H1s or your H2s, your paragraph text. You could think about density within those areas. But if you think about it like on a whole page, I think that's absolutely incorrect, because Google isn't looking at a whole page. Google's looking at specific signal areas to see how many times you're using your terms within there. So you could think about it as density in the signal area, but I think term frequency within the signal area is a better description of what you should be focusing on.
Sure. So you can definitely spam a title tag, but your overall document looks fine because they're different buckets.
That's
Is that
right.
what you're saying?
And I mean, let's say you need your keyword once in H2, whatever. You could just write the keyword, and then your density is 1, but that doesn't mean you're over optimized.
Sure.
That's okay. It's more of the term frequency. I think that you used it one time in that particular area is probably a better way to think about it.
Sure. I have a story. We used to have a website in the beer niche. Why would I ever pick that? But basically, we ranked number 1 for the keyword how to brew beer. But that keyword I think has like 60,000 volume or something like that. But the other keyword, how to make beer, we were on like page 7. Couldn't figure out why. So we ran it through some basic TF-IDF tools, like text tools. Like I think it's got like a free version. It's just like pretty simple, just counts words and stuff like that. But we were within term frequency ranges for how to brew beer, but how to make beer, we just wrote the crap out of the word make on the page just a billion times. All we did was tone that down, replace with synonyms. Then we jumped up on that keyword to page one as well. So that's when I was like a true believer on TF-IDF, keyword density, whatever you want to call it. You should, at least on competitive terms, think about how often you're writing certain words.
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's the foundational concept in POP, is that there are these different areas on the page and how many times you need which terms in which areas. I totally believe it.
Sure. Where do you source your writers from?
I had to ask my content editor this the other day, so I'm glad that I did. Cult of Copy is a place we go. That's a website. That's a copy website. Onlinejobs.ph and
Facebook group.
Yeah, and Upwork are the three. But we built a strong enough team. You get a writer, and some work, some don't. But the ones that work, then what we've done is we've got a strong enough team that when we need another writer, we ask them, because they all know people, and they're usually your talk on A players. A players know A players, right? So somebody that's a good writer is going to, the likelihood of them knowing a good writer is very, very good. So we have a big enough pool now that most of our sourcing comes from, hey, do you know a writer? But to kick it off, Cult of Copy and Online Jobs are two good places to start.
Sure. Awesome. Would you ever say that people take things a little bit too far with on-site optimization, like trying to get a 100% pop score or something like that?
Yeah, it's funny how people's brains work, and you see it in that for sure. Pop might say, like, you need this one term one time in paragraph text on a 5,000 page article, and they really freak out when they can't do it. And I'm like, I don't think that one term is going to make or break that entire article. The other thing you see people struggle with is, let's say they've put a term in like JavaScript, and Pop is struggling with seeing it, but you could run it through like the mobile friendly checker, and you can see that Google's picking it up. For some reason, they can't grasp the idea that, well, okay, so your score is a 98%, and yes, if that term was seen, you would be 100%, but you're at 100% because Google is actually seeing the term, and we just can't parse it. People really flip out about that. So those are things that kind of strike me the most. Like, it's a range. There's a range that you need to get your terms in, and as long as you're in that range, you're good to go. I would say if you just snuck in the range, maybe you want to do a little bit more. But if you're somewhere in the middle of that range, you're going to be fine with your on page.
Sure. Yeah, it makes sense. We talked a lot about the personality type that becomes an SEO. And on the DISC scale, DISC, there's often the C-type personality, which is calculating, but you could also say compulsive,
yeah.
and needing to get.
We deal with a lot of those people. They struggle. Sure. They need that one term. They need to see the 100%.
Yeah,
totally. Their brain just can't quite compute when it's like, you're at 99%. I promise that's good enough, and they just can't quite handle it.
Need perfect core web vital scores. Right. Yeah, there's tons of these little things in SEO, but I promise they're more distracting than rewarding. That's right. Yeah. Okay, well, here's a hypothetical. Imagine you found this perfect compound SEO keyword. It's right within your tier. You've on-site optimized it. You did your siloing, all your special magic, and you don't rank. You're on page 7. What do you make of that? Google broken? Or
no, Google's not broken. Google hates me personally. It's a personal attack. I would say first and foremost, it wasn't in your tier. Like you can do your research as best you can, but you are going to have some misses. I mean, that's just all there is to it. Yeah, I mean, that's what it comes down to. So I'd say first and foremost, just it wasn't in your tier. And that's something you just got to let go of. Because as I mentioned, my hit rate's 80%. That's awesome. But that means there are 2 misses. Ones that I was pretty sure were in the tier and they just were not. That's it. And let that go. Simply, even though you're like, man, this should be perfect. This should be easy. And it's not, let it go. Don't stress over it.
Fair enough. What do you think is the most critical technical SEO issue?
I think Google crawling your site. If Google can't crawl your site, you're never going to rank for anything, period. And some issues that I see, I'm conscious of crawl depth a lot. Again, kind of getting back to like putting the keyword in very specific places because you don't want to make it hard for Google. Why bury your pages 6 folders deep into your site. Why are you making it hard? Make it easy for Google to get to the pages you want them to get to. And I think folder depth is an issue there. In some older sites or sites that have interesting CMSs, I see chained redirects as an issue. And in my mind, it's the same thing as folder depth. You're asking Google to do a lot, to move from here to there, to finally get to the page that you want to rank or Google to crawl so they can see what you're doing. And again, why make it difficult? So crawling, I think, is an issue. Make sure Google can crawl your pages, because that's kind of step one. Then once they can crawl, then they can index. And then once they can index, they can rank. So it kind of starts with that, that crawling concept. And that's what I think is really critical.
Sure. On the other hand, what's the most overrated technical SEO issue?
It has to be duplicate content. People really freak out about duplicate content when they shouldn't. And duplicate content is a very easy fix. The last time I tested this, I think you only had to change 1 out of every 11 words to get past Google's duplicate content filter. So like if you've got pages that are, and people assume they have problems, by the way. Is the page actually being filtered? Because Google will show you that. You do the search and then you see at the bottom, Google says, I filtered out 100 results because they're duplicate, and you click on that and then you see your page. Okay, now you've got a duplicate content issue, but otherwise you don't. And so people probably maybe are having an issue with a page and they just assume duplicate content and run with it. So duplicate content is not as big an issue as people think it is. And if you are getting filtered by Google, you can fix it. I think keyword cannibalization, maybe that's an unpopular opinion, but keyword cannibalization is a very close second in my mind. It's not as big a problem as people think it is, because they just assume they're having some issue and they're not actually identifying that they have 2 pages that are cannibalizing each other.
Okay, cool. Here's a couple of random ones. The first one, I know you love music. What's the most embarrassing concert you've ever been to?
I went, yes. I saw Michael W. Smith, and
who?
He was a Christian artist from the early 90s, and the Newsboys opened for him. That was pretty cringy. It was very cringy. And the Newsboys had this thing. They were like, I think they were a band out of like Australia or something like that, and I think they were supposed to be hip and cool. I was there with my friend George Watkins, and
what's up, George?
He was at the Scope. And we were sitting in the area, like there was like kind of a floor area where I think you could stand, or maybe there were chairs, but everyone down there was standing. But then like everybody on the sides where we were, so we're kind of in the actual seats, because it was used for hockey and basketball. We were in the area where you would be sitting to watch the hockey game, and we just sat the whole time, and everybody around us was standing. And I was like, I really don't want to stand, George. He's like, neither do I. I don't want to take credit for any of this.
Okay, all right. Here's another random question. It's more related to SEO. What do you think about EMDs? You like them? Hate them?
Love them. Go.
Do them. Why?
I think, so one of the top places you can put your keyword is in your URL. I think you get that, or at least some credit for it within the domain. So go for it.
Sure. I like to look at it as like the URL is the hardest thing to change. Yeah. So once you optimize for it, like Google knows you're committed to that topic, and you can't really back out of it.
Yeah, I like them. I've never seen anybody have a problem with it either. People are always like, oh, you're going to mess up your internal links or something. I've never seen that before.
I mean, I guess when you're building links yourselves, and you're more susceptible to like your own offsite optimization mistakes, because you can't send a brand anchor. But
and if you're really concerned about it, why not, you could use relative links. They don't have to be absolute links. So
yeah. True that. Next question. Let's talk about everyone's favorite topic, and that's link building. You yourself don't mention it too much. You mostly focus on on-site SEO and stuff like compound SEO. But what's your thoughts on link building? What kind of links do you build, if you do build any?
We have an in-house team for our link building. We also have some external resources that we use. So our main thing is we do outreach. So within our silo, something that I didn't talk about before is not everything needs to be a supporting page in terms of that it's like the compound stuff, but we put link magnets in there. So something that's going to be part of a campaign that we're going to do link building to, and we're going to sit that within the silo. So the idea is that we build links to it, and that juice passes to all of our silo pages as well as our target page. So then it kind of spreads out and goes up, and you can really start creating this little engine of good where you really juice it up. And so when we do link building campaigns, we rarely link directly to the target page, but we will build out something that is, we call it shareable, something that could be shared, that could attract links. And the idea is that then we'll focus efforts on bringing links into that, because then it benefits everything within the silo. And then they all, as they juice up as well, then they're benefiting each other, and then drives more power to the target page. So we'll kind of include that within our silo campaign. We'll have a link, something that is a link magnet to generate links. And so then we'll do outreach for that particular piece of content.
Do you have an example of like an effective link magnet, just so people can understand what's the difference between a normal page that you want to rank and something that's built for getting links?
Yeah, you could do, like, if you have access to data, then data that people need to source. Infographics, if you want to get back into those actually kind of work. If you like scholarships or those kind of things, like something that you would be sharing across to other things, then to get people in, that would be the kind of thing to put there. Something I always like is do good in your community. So organize a canned food drive, and then you've got a page that you say, like, here are the details of the canned food drive, drop them off at this place at this time, and then you share that page so that when people link to it, now they're linking into your silo, and you're doing good at the same time.
Love it. Awesome. Next question. Do you think it's possible to rank without backlinks?
Yeah, for sure. Of course. We do it all the time. One of my courses on Whitehead SEO, I did a whole thing where I showed taking a site from zero, like absolute zero, and taking it up and ranking for terms. And that was all based on posting content within our tier and interlinking it. So I guess there were links if you count the interlinks, but there was very, very little external links going to the site.
Do you think there's a limit? Like, do you think you can rank for best hosting without backlinks if you just wrote enough content? Maybe it gets to 1 million pages?
I think you could, but there's someone at the door. I think you could, but then you're just talking about time.
Sure. Okay. Do you want to go get the door right now? We can just add. Okay. All right. Have you ever bought links?
Yeah, of course. Certainly. And no, I think that's a misconception. You can buy links. It's just what type of links you're buying. So you can buy citations. You are allowed to purchase something that is informative, that helps Google understand who you are or what your organization is. So you can buy citations, and you can get into business directories, and all of those have a link. You are also allowed to advertise. You can advertise your site, your products, certainly buy ads, your services, and there's a thing called native advertising. And the concept on native advertising is that it looks natural, but it's not. This is what goes into your Facebook feed or whatever. It looks like it's a post, but it's actually an ad. The same thing can be said for a guest post. That is native advertising. And the idea is it looks like they just happen to write an article about how amazing you are and link to your site, but it's an ad. And so long as you've identified it as an ad, it's completely legal. And it's within Google's guidelines. So as long as you're doing something that way, that you're saying this is an ad, then you're fine.
Okay, got it. Okay, I can sleep now. Because up until this point, I was just having trouble sleeping, just feeling so guilty.
I could see it in your face.
Thanks so much. Here's a question. Have you ever walked into a neighbor's house in the middle of the night thinking it was yours?
I have. I don't think I got in, though. I got through the outside gate and into their garage. The jury is still out on whether I actually broke and entered, but I think it was just a trespass.
Okay, got it. Okay, now that we got that cleared away.
And I would also mention that I did have to leave my shoes behind because for some reason I took my shoes off.
Okay, good detail. Good to know. Let's talk about SEO testing. We touched upon this before, but please describe what a single variable SEO test is and why it's important.
So the concept on single variable testing is you want to eliminate as many variables as possible so you can get down to the point that you are just testing one thing. And if you can test one thing, then you can see if it is a ranking factor, if it's a positive factor, if it's a negative factor, or if it doesn't do anything at all. And so the idea is that when you're deciding, should I do something in SEO? It should be based on a foundation of, will this move the needle? And then you want to then get down to one thing to see, does that thing move the needle? And then you can kind of build your SEO foundation from there.
Sure. I can see it as in my personal experience of it, it's more like a SEO time saver, right? There's no shortage of SEO theories out there on what works and what helps and whatnot. And you could get bogged down on wasting time and company resources trying all these things, and half of them do nothing. Actually, I think you and me can both agree that more than half of them do nothing, because when I run SEO tests, they do something like 20% of the time. Like most of the time, the test is a waste of time.
I agree.
Do you agree?
I 100% agree.
Yeah. So I think like everyone can agree that SEO testing is super important. Why do you think that no one does it? Like off the top of my head, I can only name 6 people, and that's the people in our testing group.
Sure.
So why do you think people don't do it?
Because it sucks donkey balls. Like they're just put that on my gravestone. Kyle Roof. It sucks donkey balls. Promise me, diggity. So they're difficult. I think first and foremost, they're difficult to conceptualize. It's easy to say, like, get down to one thing, but then I've spoken to a lot of people. Like I remember one guy was getting advice from me on how to set up an SEO test, and he's like, okay, so I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And I was like, well, you're actually testing like 10 things in that. So what you need to do is actually do this and get it down to that one thing. And then if that works, then you can go on to the next thing. But I was like, we were really looking at a series of a bunch of tests, and then I never heard back from him, because that's, like, that's an amazing amount of work to do. Right. So, they take, first you have to conceptualize them, and that's not easy to do. Then you have to set them up. That's also not easy to do. Then you have to let them run, and there's a month or two of your life gone. And then at the end of that 2 months or 1 month or whatever it might have been, then you realize that you got nothing out of it. And so your success rate is very, very low when doing these things. Yeah. And then you have to repeat it, because you can't just do a test one time and feel really, really good, unless it's kind of an extension of something else you've done. But you probably need to do them at least 5 times and get the same hit rate to feel pretty confident that you've done something that, okay, this is really working. And that's very time consuming and very difficult. And I think that's why most people don't do it.
Another thing that sucks donkey balls is when you're running that test, you can't have a Google algorithm update, because it's going to just completely explode your results.
It is also problematic.
It's funny,
and there have been so many massive updates in the last year that really screw up a lot of things.
Yeah, totally. It's funny, in our testing group, like we have this weekly testing group. On Friday, we share anything that we've learned. And whenever there's an update, everyone's just like, of course I have freaking nothing, because all my tests are just destroyed.
Well, I think in the last 3 months, you might be the only ones that actually, I think you've gotten a couple that could finish. Like I'm having indexing issues like crazy with my test pages.
Yeah. Yeah. What's a cool thing you've discovered through testing in the last year?
You can still rank a blank page. That's fun. So you could have all your content. You can set your CSS display to none, and Google will rank that page.
Okay. Awesome. Based on your testing, are you noticing any trends that Google is moving towards? Like, what can we expect in the years coming forward?
Well, getting back to indexing, I think Google's biggest problem right now is indexing. And I think you can source it back to when they decided to switch over to mobile first indexing. I think that legitimately broke something. My guess is there was something in the original index, and the people that wrote that original indexing aren't around anymore. And the new guys don't know what that thing is. And I think they really messed up when they made that switch, and it's caused a lot of issues within Google in terms of indexing. So
any improvements that you're seeing, or is it just getting worse and worse?
There's a tool by Carolyn Holtzman. She has a thing where she monitors simple indexing, which is like new content coming in, and complex rendering, which is like rendering a whole page, including JavaScript. I think in the last 100 days, there's only been one day. Oh, by the way, Google does both on normal days. Like in normal indexing time, Google is doing both of these things. And there's only been one day in the last 100 days that our tools detected Google doing both. So not great. It has to get better at some point. It must. But the thing that I've been doing within testing and also within IMG, a bunch of tests have been done on this, are the concept of indexing zones. So there are ranking factors. There are places on your page that Google is looking for terms, and those will impact rank. but not all ranking factor zones are indexing zones as well. Meaning you can put a term here and it could affect the rank of the page, but you could put a term there and that might not help the page index because Google isn't using it to actually index the page. The big ones, your H1, H2, H3, H4, those are all indexing zones, which again gets back to why wouldn't you put your keyword in those things? It still blows my mind when people are like, well, I tried to get creative with this. Like, no, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. But even it gets back to indexing the page for a particular term. If you just put it in the major spots, the top 4 we talked about, you'll be fine. Google will index the page, but people don't. And so in addition to having issues with rank, I see a lot of, in addition to the issues that are going on in Google anyway, you're going to end up with more indexing issues because you're just making it harder for Google to figure out where to put it into the SERPs.
Sure. Very cool. Very cool. Before we start asking some questions about Chiang Mai, which a lot of people in the community have been asking about, like, why did you move to Chiang Mai, et cetera. Let's ask some questions about mindset. Now, I think anyone who's hung out with you personally or met you at a conference or seen you in Chiang Mai at the meetups or anything like that can easily see that you're an extroverted guy. Like, you always like to be in the mix. And that's kind of contrary to like how most SEOs operate, just sit behind their computer and nerd out all day and then maybe jump on Facebook to talk to people or something like that. But do you see a benefit for networking in the SEO community, in the SEO industry? Like, what do you think the upsides are of getting out there and just speaking with people?
Yeah, I always think you should say yes a lot. When something's going on, say, do all the events, do all the things, as Matt Tiggety says. I don't think you'll ever hear me say, like, I think I'm going to skip the mixer after this conference. Like,
never once.
You need to talk to people and you need to meet as many as you can. And I do understand that that's difficult for a lot of people, but there are things you can do. You can help organize the event. You can help organize local meetups, and then people have to talk to you. You can be a resource for things and get to meet people because what I realized is you need to be like, think about what you want, conceptualize that thing that you really want, and then you need to go to where that is. Like, you need to be there because when people are making the decision on those things, you want them to think of you. And the only way for them to do that is if you're around. I understand that COVID has made things a little bit more difficult in terms of in-person, but you can still do this in an online sense. But when you think about like, I want clients. Okay. Who are your clients? Who do you want? And then where are they? Where are they physically? Go to there, go to that place and be there, and then be so that you're constantly on their mind so that when they are then looking for someone to hire, it's you. Or in a place where they're like, somebody needs a referral. Well, you're on their mind because you're constantly around. You're in that place. When business deals are happening or JVs, that's, you need to be in that place when people will consider like, oh, we should JV with this person. And you can only accomplish that by being there. So I understand that it's not easy for a lot of people to go to events and to talk and all that. But that's what I would say mindset wise. Figure out where the thing is that you want and then get to that place.
Sure. You have the worst FOMO I've ever seen in a human being in my entire life.
No.
Would you say the FOMO is related to this mindset thing that you want to be where the decisions are being made, you don't want to miss out on an opportunity, or is this another disease?
That's a great question. Interestingly, my doctor thinks I'm an introvert and I'm masking it. So maybe I'm overcompensating for the fact that I'm trying to be an extrovert and doing it this way.
Maybe. Okay. But you can agree you're the worst FOMO ever, right?
Is it me or Will Tribe? Let's be honest.
Okay.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, sure. Okay, fair enough. You might be tied. Fine. Okay, cool. Let's finish things off asking some questions about Chiang Mai. A lot of the questions I'm getting from people in the YouTube community are asking, so what's up with Chiang Mai? What's it like living here? Stuff like that.
I think it's a life and business level up. At least the opportunity is there. You still do have to put in the effort. I mean, you can't just show up and be like, okay, Chiang Mai, give it to me. You still have to be in that. But the quality of life you can have here is amazing. And then there's so many high level people within digital marketing that you can become friends with. Again, by going to the events. we have a weekly SEO meetup. It blows my mind that there are people in town that don't come.
Sure.
At least
Yeah,
just sit
absolutely.
there, like at a minimum. I mean,
Yeah.
people are giving away great information. They're talking about SEO. People are bringing up good questions, and it's all levels. There are beginners to advanced, but everyone is very, very helpful. So again, this gets back to the whole thing. If you need something, I know I could ask somebody. Like, oh, I need this. I know that there's a resource that I could go to and actually get that thing. And it's about going to it. So Chiang Mai has that opportunity. I would bet I moved from Phoenix. I'm confident that like per capita, or at least within the capita, there are more SEOs. The SEO count is higher in Phoenix, but the community is so strong here, and the resources that are instantly available to you here are so much greater.
Cool. What made you move to Chiang Mai in the first place? Like, why did you decide to leave Phoenix?
It was that idea of think about what I want, and so I'm thinking about my businesses and my career, and I want to be with the A players. I want to be around people that will push me, and then also be in a community that I know that I can instantly plug into, be in that place where decisions are being made, choices are being made, things are actually happening. And so Chiang Mai was the spot. I think most people would agree it's really, if not the hotspot, it's one of the top 5, I think, digital marketing hotspots in the world.
Yeah, I like how you put the moniker digital marketing hotspot, because it's not just SEO. Right. I think one of the great things is, we go to dinners quite frequently with, our group of friends and stuff like that. And we got people that have exited e-commerce businesses. We got SaaS friends. It's all over the board. We got people in generations older than us, people in generations younger than us. So we get to see the whole gambit all the time. And one thing I like about it personally is you never encounter a non-entrepreneur in Chiang Mai. Everyone's an entrepreneur. So everyone's speaking world of possibility. Everyone's talking about like what they're going to build and stuff like that. It's a different conversation than I have in the States. Not that I have anything wrong with the States, but I like to be in the realm of creativity and possibility as much as I can.
That's a great point. I'd never thought about that. I think practically it's because everyone has to be, because you can't have a visa working physically within Thailand. So it has to be online. So if a foreigner is in Thailand, they are working online. And nearly all of those are entrepreneurial in some form.
Yeah. One big fear I have before anyone moves here, and this happens every single time, is because most people experience Chiang Mai during Chiang Mai SEO conference. And then that's insane. Like there's 800 people, and like everywhere you go, no matter what restaurant or coffee shop it is, there's SEOs there. And it kind of I feel like it gives people a fake opinion of what Chiang Mai is like. So I get super worried when people move here. And I'm definitely worried when you were moving here. It's like, oh, is he going to like it? Is he going to be disappointed? But what have your thoughts been so far?
I think it's exceeded expectations. I knew it was going to be, I was pretty confident it was going to be good, but it's been fantastic.
Nice.
Maybe during the conference, because there's 800 SEOs at the conference, and there's probably another 800 that are just in town because at any given point in time, maybe you could reach somebody and grab, are you an SEO or do you do it? And they would say yes. Maybe you can't do that now, but there's still so many. It's an absurd number of people doing SEO. But I'd been pondering for a while, but I think you hit the nail on the head that it's because, they work here. And to work here, you have to be doing something not in Thailand. And as a result, that's why everyone here is in digital marketing in some form. And the infrastructure here is really good. So the internet's great. I work at a co-working spot most days of the week, and that's really, really good. The guy next to me, he has a whole like who's calling me site, and it's based out of the UK and Spain. And so he's working in digital marketing, but he's doing something nowhere near anything that I would ever do. He's in the back end figuring out if it's a spam call, I guess. I don't know. But so talk to him about what he's doing. That gives me ideas, inspiration. It's just cool. And when you're around successful people, you become more successful. You're pushed to be more successful. And so that's all still here, even though maybe it's slightly smaller than during the conference. There's still here in high quantities.
Sure. Give us a list of ridiculous things you've outsourced here in Chiang Mai.
Yeah, if you're an SEO and you like optimization, you can optimize your life here. I think in a big way.
It's a little bit embarrassing, but go ahead and give them.
The big one is I have a driver. So she drives me around Monday through Friday, pretty much as I want, wherever I want to go. And that's from, say, like maybe 8 a.m. to around 6 or 7 p.m. I try to keep it not that late for her, but she would go later. But the thing is, she's not just a driver, though. I would liken her to like a valet in the 1800s, or like a private secretary that they had back in the day, where the person that travels with you and like takes care of everything for you. So like she's a fixer. I don't know where to find this, because in the US I would get it at this store, but that store doesn't exist. Where to get it? She's like, oh, I'll find it. We lost a package once. Like, it was mailed in and it was just gone. And I gave her the number and she's just screaming into the phone. And then, 5 minutes later, she's like, okay, I found your package. It's in Bangkok. It's going to be here tomorrow. It's like, yes, that's awesome. So, she is unbelievable and, huge. I have a full-time housekeeper. She's 8:30 to 4:30 every day. Cleans the whole house, does all the laundry, does all that kind of stuff. She runs errands. She go to the store, and she also will cook as many meals as we want, so we can have a full-time cook if we want. We actually get tired of it. How terrible is that, right? Like,
You're going to hell.
I know. I'm okay with that. That occurred to me the other day. I was like, I don't think my next life is going to be as good as this. this might be the pinnacle. We have a part-time nanny because I have a son. We'd have a full-time nanny. Everyone that has a small child has basically a full-time nanny. I have a personal trainer. I have a private doctor in town. There's a masseuse that comes to the house. There's a person that does manicures and pedicures for us. They come to the house. We did a private party not too long ago, and we got a local chef in. Like, we just contacted somebody like, hey, do you know a chef? And we got this up-and-coming chef that's about to get his own restaurant, and he cooked an amazing 6-7 course meal in our home.
It was awesome.
Unbelievable.
It was awesome.
Yeah, just all that kind of stuff is just silly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's silly, it's embarrassing, but if it's here for the taking, we got to take advantage of it. And really, everything you listed off, it's not that expensive.
No.
Like, you're looking at maybe 1 to 1.5K extra per month for all these.
Exactly right. I mean, the private doctor, how stupid is this? I go in and consult with him, and it costs 200 baht. So that's like $6.
Yeah,
and I think he wasn't trained in the US, but I think he was trained in like Singapore or something like that. Like it's not like he just got his medical degree in some back alley somewhere and now is claiming to be a doctor. Like, he's an actual doctor. $6 a visit.
That's crazy. Well, dude, let's start to wrap this up. First, I just want to say thanks so much, but I got a couple more questions. First, what kind of pieces of advice do you have for newer SEOs just starting out and want to get your level of success, want to go down a path that you have?
I think you actually have to do SEO. I see people worrying about SEO, and worrying about SEO and doing SEO are two very, very different things. And a lot of people are like, should I do this? They post, should I do this or that? And it's okay to ask questions, and I think you should, but you should also come up with a way for you to find the answer yourself, because then you can, like, if you ask a question in the future, you can determine if it's BS or not, because you have a framework of what actually works and what doesn't. So put up some test sites. They don't have to be like lorem ipsum sites if you don't want, but put up a hobby site. And then when you hear about a new technique, now you've got a site you can go do it on before you are doing it on something you really care about. So do SEO,
Sure.
be in it. If you want to be a speaker, I think you definitely have to do SEO, because you want to come up with new things every year, and you want to talk about new topics, and you can see the speakers that are doing SEO because they're coming up with new stuff, and you can see the speakers that are not. And I think also you want to be able to back up your claims. I had somebody was arguing with me about something, and I said, okay, well, here's what I did. And I showed myself, now can you show what you've got? And they called that a low blow. It was a low blow that I asked them to show what they were talking about. Remember that
one. All right, cool. Final question. If Pop, Surfer, and Cora went to a parking lot to have a fist fight, who would win?
Well, if it's on processing power alone, Cora's going to kick our ass, because Cora is so ridiculous that you have to run it on your own computer. It won't run in the cloud. So if it's based off of that, I'll go Cora.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Well, thanks again for your time, and thanks again for being so open. I guess I'll see you later this week.
Sounds good. I appreciate it.
Take care, man. Peace.